Our next session covers an essential topic for every HVAC business looking to strengthen their safety protocols and protect their company. I'd like to introduce Bernie Borgman from CEO of Safety Loop. Bernie will educate you on Safety Loop safeguards their business by documenting safety protocols and proving due diligence in a case of workplace accident. Safety Loop system enhances legal defenses by providing clear evidence of compliance and proactive safety measures. Something like maybe what the TSSA guys were talking about earlier, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Bernie's background is in health and safety, which makes him the perfect representative to speak to us today about this. Again, everybody, welcome Bernie.
All right. I got this mic here. Oh, I'm on already. Hi. Nice to meet you. Oh, look at that. I've got not bad hands for an old guy. Actually, I think is it on? Yeah, that's off. Oh, this might be on now. Hi, everybody, welcome. I'm assuming this is on. I think I can hear myself. I'll give you a little background. I've got 35 years technology experience, building some of the first internet companies back in the mid-90s in Ontario. So I'm dating myself, but also 10 years boots on the ground safety. So very odd combination. And we built our platform, an electronic health and safety platform called Safety Loop. So what we're going to talk about is how you protect your companies. And I just want to do a quick survey so I know who I'm talking to. Who here is an owner of a company? If you can just raise your hand, owners, so I can pick on you guys. No, just kidding. Supervisors at those companies? And everybody else, straight up employee, not a supervisor? Is that fair, or just not, don't want to put your hand up type thing? So, all right, and this is the thing here on the right. So safety, a lot of the times, you'll see safety on a truck. Stay alert, be alert, all these things. What does it really do, honestly? Right? It's a slogan. Does it do anything for your health and safety, right? What does this mean to an owner, health and safety? What does it mean to a supervisor? What does it mean to an employee? Or is it all the same, right? I guess I just flipped this here. I want to go over some incidents that have happened in the field that I've unfortunately been party to and had to do investigations on. Accidents happen. If you're an owner, if you've been in construction or some type of service long enough, you're going to be party to it. It's sooner or later something happens, right? I'll give you an example. And unfortunately, it tends to happen on long weekends, happens on holidays or coming up on holidays, mine not on task. I had an incident where the partner that we built this safety company, this electronic safety company on, fantastic health and safety guy, CRSP, paralegal. He called me up, I was out on a site, and he said, Bernie, he said, just listen up. He said, what I want you to do, I think it was August long weekend, he said, I want you to, when you're talking to the guys, just make sure they're focusing, because I always get a bad vibe on these long weekends. 3 hours later, he called me up and said, you'll never believe it. Worker run over by a dump truck on a site. Right? Worker reversing the dump truck. Made the critical error. He passed behind the truck, which is not part of the safe work procedure. Didn't stop the truck. Truck is supposed to stop. It didn't stop. Young kid driving it. I think he was 26 years old. So that's tough on him. Runs the guy over and ended up killing him. I'm going to come back to this story down the road. But, Ministry of Labor obviously involved. A lot of things happening. Anyone ever heard of Westray Mines? Westray Mines? This incident happened, let me just check here, May 9th, 1992. What ended up happening was there was a mining company in Nova Scotia that I'm not going to say international, but I believe it was a Toronto company. They had a bunch of shell companies, blah, 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 all set up. They set up a mine in Nova Scotia. And safety costs money. If you're a business owner, it's great to have the slogans, but the reality is the TSSA guy was up here, wherever you are, TSSA guy. And they were talking about compliance, information in the field. These things take time, effort, and money, right? So Westray Mines said, you know what? Oh, God, all that safety stuff, that's a lot of money. So what they did is they put fans in, but they never worked. They put ventilation, it never worked. What ended up happening is 29 workers were killed in that, 26 workers were killed in that accident back in 1992. Government went in and said, you know what? These guys willfully and neglectfully didn't provide safety to these workers. And if they did, they'd be alive right now. We're going to go after them. What ended up happening is that they found out very quickly when they went in, all the corporate maneuvers by lawyers and stuff and all the companies and things actually insulated the owners from the incident. They couldn't go after the owners. There was no law in place in Canada for safety to go after that owner and hold them responsible. They killed 26 people. So what came out of that was the Westray Mines Act. Well, that's what they call it. It's actually Bill C-45. And what came out of there is that they put, and just to summarize it real quick, they actually put it, addendum in the criminal code. So if you willfully, and this is not only the owners, this is that's why I asked, are you a supervisor? Right? Because the supervisor is an extension of that company. They can now go after companies criminally, and they do, right? It actually happens. This incident happened Christmas Eve, 2009. I don't know if you can see how well you can see that, but that's a swing stage. Anyone familiar with this incident? So what ended up happening was, and again, right by a holiday, oh, just get her done, let's go, let's get her done, right? 13 stories off the floor, they're doing some work. They got a swing stage set up. There's engineering, all this stuff you do. We talk about TSSA, engineering, requirements, codes, all this stuff. Applies here too. 6 workers on that swing stage, designed for 2 people. There's 2 lifelines. 5 workers, when that swing stage, what ended up happening, I don't know if you can see, there's one part and there's another part, it opened up. 5 workers dropped 13 floors, 4 were killed, 1 survived somehow, it wasn't great, obviously. And 1, tied to the lifeline, was pulled in. And what happened was the supervisor showed up, foreman had put him on the swing stage, supervisor showed up, he was on the balcony when it happened. He was aware of the situation and did nothing. Get the job done, right? Swing stage opened up. The result of that, because of the Westray Mines Act, construction manager jailed. A supervisor, not the owner, supervisor, went to jail. He was sentenced to 3.5 years for that incident there. And that all came because of the Westray Mines Act. So you've got 3.5 years. Poor guy, he's a 40-year-old guy. He's doing a job. Like, you don't go to work thinking you're going to go to jail. His life's ruined. He's got a criminal record. Want to take the kids to Disney? No, not crossing the border, are you? Right? This is life impacting for him and also all the other people who are not coming home. Right? So remember when I said safety means different things to different people? Right? We talked about an incident about a dump truck. We talked about Westray Mines, which actually changed the law. We talked about this unfortunate fellow here who ended up in jail because of it. So those different people, there's different requirements. So when I say a health and safety system, what does that mean for an employee? What I think it means, and correct me if I'm wrong or chime in if you'd like, I think it means I'm here to make money so I can go spend it and have fun. I want to go home. No one goes to work to not go home, right? What does it mean for a supervisor, right? Does a supervisor have any extra requirements? And the answer is yes. By the law, as a supervisor, you're appointed because your knowledge, your training, and you have to conduct work to keep a worker safe. You have the TSSA here, and I heard a lot of things we hear. I don't know, are they still here? I don't know if they're still here or not. But the TSSA guy was saying, oh, you know what? All I need from you is twice a year do this document. What did he call that document? I can't remember. I've written it down here somewhere. Oh, do that document twice a year. And I see due diligence like that. Pfft, we're good, right? So it's little things that you have to do. So supervisor, documentation is your friend, right? It's the proof that you've been diligent to do what you need to do, right? Worker, that knowledge, that documentation, that information that flows down to a worker is what they use to make the decisions. Do I stand on that swing stage? Did those workers know they had a right not to do that, right? Owner. Safety for owners, in my mind, is a little different. And people say, oh, be alert. You know why I should be alert? Because the world needs more alerts. No, I just want to say that. Sorry. Basically, a supervisor has to provide information to a worker, make sure a worker is doing it right, which is the same as the owner. But an owner, safety, TSSA documentation safety, is also an insurance policy in a roundabout way if you think about it, right? One of the things we're working on over here with this organization, and we're doing this with a couple of other organizations, I'm going to throw it in here, is we are working on building an accreditation standard right now for another organization, and we're talking about something along those lines with what you guys have here, not really an accreditation standard, but where you actually collectively say, you know what, we all, at the end of the day, do something similar. Is that a fair statement? Yes, no? Yeah, you do similar things. So we can put that together and create something that you can deliver to those employees. As an owner, the insurance policy is, and I want to talk about those 3 accidents. The first accident where the dump truck ran over that person. That company, very tight safety. I know there was an accident and I know that someone didn't go home. But that company had safety in order. They did inspections constantly. All the documentation, all the training, all the things you talked about, TSSA. I was actually one of the people who was involved in some of that stuff, I guess you want to call it, in the incident. And when something that serious happens, the Ministry of Labor comes in and they pull on the rubber gloves, right? As a company, you're going through, you're getting checked out. And this company went everything. They looked at every training session that person had. They looked at the content of those training sessions. Who did it, when it was done, on and on and on, right? And what ended up happening, whether it's good or bad, back at the time, there was a statutory limit for charges in a fatality. It was about a year, if I recall. And that company never got charged, which is almost unheard of, which actually it really is unheard of. And the reason they didn't get charged is because they had their due diligence in order. They had a system. They were running an electronic system. We were running their systems. And they had the information to say, look, the guy's trained, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why they did what they did. It was a tragic error. And the ministry actually agreed with that. Now you look at Westray Mines, what we talked about. They created legislation to take someone to court, and they've used it. You look at the swing stage accident. No due diligence. The supervisor was on site, and an incident just recently happened about 8 months ago. 2 workers killed and buried in a trench. Owner was standing on site. You see what happened in the swing stage incidents. This is not good for that person. They've got a problem, right? So as an owner, as a supervisor, due diligence and all that information that TSSA talked about it, I know we need these little reports. And you hear, and I was talking to someone here and I can't remember where they went. Memolino, I believe. Ah, there you are, how you doing? And it's like, he says like, oh, but the guys, they don't want to do it. Those days, they don't exist anymore. You really need this documentation to protect yourself as a company. And then we have people who say, well, yeah, well, we do it on paper and, and you have the system and the problem, do you really know what's going on? So just to highlight, I want to point out that there's been a major change to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and it was this year. And what it allows for is electronic posting. A lot of people say, well, I can't post a job board. I can't post information. It's got to be in paper. That's not true anymore. And there's about, if you actually go through the occupation, you'll see all the sections. But For the purpose of posting in the Act and regulations, information is posted in a readily accessible format, and following requirements are provided. The employer provides workers with direction on where and how to get the information. And I'll give you an example. We had a new company, high-risk industry, underground shaft tunnel work. We set up their, Safety Loop is our electronic safety side. Comply Loop is our consulting side. We set this company up, all of their stuff they needed, everything on the app, they had to go. High risk, every time they worked, they got to call the ministry. New company, ministry shows up. The guy hands them our phone, or his phone, says, here's everything right here. You know what the ministry did? They went, wow. Yeah, you got your, for lack of a better term, shit together, right? You got your stuff together. This is good. Off they went. They don't bother that guy. TSSA mentioned it here. Look, if we see that you have a process in place, right? And that's really ISO safety if you think about it, process safety. If you have a process in safe where you check a couple times a year your guys and you have a documentation to show us, and we leave you alone. That's what we're talking about here, using an electronic system to create those processes and drive that. So, an effective safety system requires communication. And anyone course certified here? You're working on it?
Working on it.
Yeah, and it's tough to get. Yeah, I was actually a core auditor for a number of years for a company. We have built, our system has been used for Core 2015, Core 2020, ISO 45001. We've worked with companies to do that, build their safety systems. And it is a difficult process to do, right? But there's studies that show if you're a core certified company, you actually have a 28% less critical injury rate than if you're not core certified. So it works. And then you got to sort of step back and say, well, why does it work? What is different in a core company, right? And you know what one of the main differences, because I was an auditor and this took some time, and this is a mentality shift sometimes for companies, is I call it downhill safety. So what you're doing is and it's great to have, who has a safety binder here? Put your hand up, you got a safety binder, put your hand up. Okay, is it paper-based? Where does it live? Guy's truck, under the seat, beside the Timbit box that's empty, right? Is it up to date? I think it is. What version do you have? Oh, that's the 1942 version, right? So you have these processes, and the reality is the worker needs information. And what CORE does is it drives information downhill to that worker. What our system does drives information to that worker, right? And then when the ministry shows up and says, hey, let me see your stuff, your training records, let me see your dailies, let me see where's all your documentation, your help. Oh, it's right here. It's on the app. Super easy for them to get to. They're happy with that. But what it does is it have the added benefit of actually conveying that information to the worker. When I do this task for the company, what am I supposed to do? And the answer is when I get on a 2-person swing stage and there's 4 people already on it, I don't get on it, right? So, an electronic health and safety system. Does anyone use electronics for their health and safety system? What are you using, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a program of health and safety, and that's all the guys have an app on the phone.
Okay.
There's all the licenses, health and safety policies.
So some policies and some information. Awesome. Anybody else? Or? Oh, we're back here.
E-compliance.
E-compliance.
Sorry.
E-compliance. Okay. That's one of the that's one of the original systems actually made by a guy in Ontario, if you can believe it. He's in Calgary now. So a couple people. The rest of you paper-based. Is that fair to say? Right? Are you happy with the paper-based system right now? I think I am. You're not sure type thing. You don't know, right? One of the things you can do, because now you can legally post data electronically. What does that do for you, right? What does that do for your workers? Keeps them up to date. I heard someone say up to date. Exactly. Is the binder up to date? I don't know. Well, you know what? The app, the next document I put there, the new TSSA requirement, bang, next time they open it, the new one's there. I don't have to worry about that. It's there. It's immediate, right? But you have real-time data. You can look at your system and say, did the worker fill out this form? He mentioned one of the things, take a picture of the tag. And that sounds like a great idea. Anyone see a problem with that? No, that's a good. Where's that picture live? It's on his phone. The guy leaves, the picture's gone. You have no proof, you have nothing, right? Whereas if you have an electronic system, that real-time data, you may have a form that says, hey, after installation, check, 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 I got a couple checks here. Take picture. They don't have to do anything. You now have the data to prove when someone rips that tag off that it was there. And I'll give you an example of our system being used that one time. Somebody put a lockout tag out on a conveyor system. Somebody took it off. But the person who did the inspection took a picture of it. Said, nope, it was on when I left. Right? It's that proof that you need as an owner or as a supervisor to say, no, we've done our job correctly. And you can take it from here. Risk assessments. Right? And this is something we're talking to your association about. Is the reality you do very similar things. You're exposed to very similar risks. Right? And one of the things you want to do is in your business, or one of the things you legally have to do is to say, okay, what are we exposing our workers to? Right? What hazards are my workers exposed to? And you build out a risk assessment. Look, when you do this task for me, here are the hazards, and here's how I expect you, because of my knowledge, training, experience as an owner or a supervisor, on how you need to do the job. I don't want you to ad-lib. I don't want you to make it up as you go. This is how we need you to do it. And in an electronic system, you can actually, prior to start of work, saying, I'm doing this task for you today, and right there, it'll say, okay, step 1, what do you do? Step 2, what do you do? What are the risks? What are the hazards? Right? If this isn't in place, stop, stand down. Right? So risk assessments are critical. And the other thing that it does, it allows for better communication. Right? You're communicating to the workforce, to that employee, to that kid who you just hired, maybe he's 20 years old and doesn't want to, I don't want to pretend I don't know what I'm doing. Right? They don't ask questions. They don't want to look like they're whatever. They have access to information. They can make decisions. Right? So better communication. The other thing is a good electronic system will allow communication both ways. Technician out in the field finds a problem. Has this ever happened? Right? You find a problem out in the field. Hey, whoa, time out here. I need something. You can create an action item. You can document that. We found the problem. We're documenting it. What are we doing? What's the resolution? And if you're going for your core certification, that's a critical part of core certification. Right? I found the problem. Who do I communicate it to? How do I communicate it? How do we resolve it? And we wrap it up and put it all together. So when you look at an effective safety system, I gave you 3 incidents up front, right? And in those incidents, one company should have been charged, they got away with it. One company didn't get away with it, they were charged. And another company who had a very robust health and safety system, unfortunately there was an accident. Because the reality is, in the last 30 years, critical injuries, critical fatalities in Canada haven't really changed. And why is that? Because we're not getting that information downhill. So we're actually working with a government agency. I don't know if I want to exactly say who we're working with just yet, but we're working on creating a program where that information is going to go downhill to those employees so that hopefully we can get more workers home safe. So any questions in your health and safety, in your policy and what you're doing? Not a single question? Was I that thorough?
Bernie, you and I have talked about having some sort of a wellness check built into the app. Is that something you think you can do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if this is something that your association wanted to do, because one of the things is you got a lot of, I think they mentioned it here, you got one guy in a truck, a fair statement, right? How do you know that worker's safe, right? So absolutely, and something you could, if we went down that road and we worked with you guys, we could build something into the system that would allow for that check-in, right? And that's a key part when you're sending someone out.
Does this get customized like that, or
you were to add something like that, would that be customized for the company, or would that be something?
It's hard to say because I'd have to look at the actual parameters of it, how it would work. There's a number of ways to communicate on the platform, and whether we would have to do some programming for that or we could use what we existingly have. I'd have to look at what the requirements are. But the bottom line is that single worker check-in. Hey, if I don't hear from you from in a certain amount of time, what's the protocol for that?
Is the cost based on how many employees use it, or?
Yeah, for our platform, for Safety Loop platform, and Dave is actually our head of sales here. He's the one who handles all these great questions, but I'll throw it over to Dave. He can take you through a little bit of that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anybody who wants to ask a sales question, come and talk to me afterwards. But I want to piggyback on a comment that Tony made in the earlier session that Bernie can allude to. One of the things that I think is really important that we might be overlooking is why do your employees have such a hard time doing these forms? We all know we want to just get to work done and get on with our life. What Bernie brought to this party was that unique combination of the digital experience and the boots on the ground. So selfishly, when he built this platform, he built it with the end use in mind. He built it with the worker in mind and the health and safety manager in mind. How is the information going to flow? And I would recommend if you are a paper-based system, and I know Bernie asked the question, there weren't a lot of people here who put their hands up when we talked about electronic systems. So when you think about your paper-based system right now, that might be putting your company at risk. That might be putting your supervisors at risk. And if it's a conversation that the company actually wants to have, a robust conversation, you have to look at each company, each digital tool, respectively how it was built. And that's the difference. To answer your question about what does it cost? Well, most companies do base these things on how many users are using the system. In our case, we went, well, how many active users are using the system? And if you're a smaller company, like let's say you've got between 10 and 50 employees, should you pay the same price as somebody with 50 to 100 employees? And what functionality do you need to have to be successful? We always kind of look at the use case for the customer and ask how can we make this successful for you? So again, to answer your question, yeah, it is user-based, but it's relatively inexpensive compared to all of our competitors, because our competitors came onto the marketplace and they said, well, we need to move things from paper to digital. We're going to create these electronic file folders and it's going to look flashy. But what you're seeing now is the market's trying to catch up to what we're doing, because they're starting to see how the information is flowing on our company, on our platform, and they're trying to play catch up. But the problem is that their system was never designed to flow the way our information flows. So I just wanted to throw that out there for Bernie, is that unique combination of boots on the ground and the technology background that makes our system unique. And for anybody who wants to have a question about, would this be a good fit? I mean, obviously we're here to talk to you about that. I can do that. But yeah, I would definitely encourage, because not many people here put their hands up when we said, do you use an electronic system? Putting your hand up is a hard thing to do sometimes in a crowd. But let me just get a sense again. Just put your hand up if you do not use an electronic system. Who's using paper right now in Excel spreadsheets, that sort of thing?
They're giving a $100 gift certificate for everybody.
Who doesn't know? That's a better question. Does everybody here in the room know what you use? Okay, so who's electronic? Put your hand up. Okay, so we have more electronic people. Okay, so if you haven't heard of Safety Loop before, you might want to just talk to us in the future, because we are trying to build something for your association. As Paul alluded to, you guys have a similar set of business challenges that are not competitive, right? You all face the same challenges. So what we're trying to do is work with a group of your companies to say, hey, what do you need? Tell us what you need, big company, small company. Let's build it for everybody. Keep the cost down. So, because our system is bespoke. Keep the cost down, build something for the association so that everybody can benefit from economies of scale. So hopefully that answers your question, a bit long-winded, but yeah.
Oh, did you?
Any other questions? Any other questions, guys? Am I on, or is this?
No. Oh, yours.
It's not on? Okay.
No, there you are. Now you're
no, I'm good. I got this now. Anyway, so again, recently, our company is transitioning into a much larger organization. We've gone from paper to electronic. It seems like a challenge at the beginning because it's such a volume of information, but you can see how it will benefit the flow for sure. I mean, back when, you know, we had our binders, you know, we'd have our service meetings. We were talking about this with Tony. We arrange our service meetings. Everyone brings in their binders, everyone brings in their bags. We do inspections. The binders go to, you know, our health and safety person that then fills in all the updates. You know, we distribute it to everybody. They sign off on it, and then they're gone back in the truck with the spilt copies on it and all that. So the electronic with the day and age that we're in right now, it's just like the GPS. You know, back when we talked about it 10, 15 years ago, you know, it was almost foreign with the GPS. Now, I couldn't tell you how many people don't have GPS in their vehicles, right? So it's definitely a good product. So no other questions, guys? Anyway, again, thanks to Safety Loop and Bernie for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having us.
I've got a gift for you here. Back here. Oh, that's for you.